And we're live once again. Good evening, folks. Welcome to Friday Night Tech Talk. I'm Mobile Geezer, which you're well aware of if you're following on YouTube, because you're on my Mobile Geezer channel. But you also might be watching on Facebook of one of my two IDs, either Mobile Geezer or George Hayes. We simulcast all three at the same time every week. And if you're new here, every week at this time, I pick out some tech articles that I think might be interesting to other tech heads like myself. I try to pick articles that are interesting, but you may not have seen all over the place. And if there's a big event, of course, I talk about that too. And every week, I show you on, and by the way, if you're new here, please say something in the comments and let us know where you're watching from, and please be sure to subscribe. And now every week I show you guys my website where I put the show notes every week. So let's show you that first. I'm going to share screen. And if you look in the comments, it's Ted just let us know that he won't be making it tonight. He's out in Dallas. I'm in Tennessee. So I'm glad he let us know at least. Let's see, before I do that. And here's Annie. Annie says, I too am on my way to work. Have a great weekend, everyone. Yeah, Annie usually drops in before she goes to work. Very grateful for she and Eleanor. And Annie almost always watches Saturday the next day, as Brian does if he misses one. So I'm very grateful for you guys. So glad you stopped in as always. All right, to my website, and let me show you tonight's show notes. So, over here. Okay, so if you go to mobilegeezer.wordpress.com, just click on today's date, you'll get just the show notes for tonight. And as I do every week, I'm going to give you a little preview while we're here. And I don't think there was any big event this week, but you guys correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, anytime I miss a big event, I would certainly be appreciative of you guys letting me know about it. All right, so tonight we're going to first look at, we've had some problems. We had Amazon Web Services down. That was the real serious one. That took out stuff all around the world. And then we had Microsoft Azure. Now, Amazon Web Services is the biggest cloud service in the world. And Microsoft Azure is the second biggest cloud service in the world. So, of course, that took out pieces all over the world also. And got straightened out this week. And I made separate videos on both of those events. But just yesterday, we had ChatGPT down. I said ChatGPT free users only was down for just over an hour. So it was a lot better than the other two, Thursday the 30th. So that's the one we're going to start with. Like I said, it was only out for an hour and just for the free users, which I happen to be one of. Anyway, I'm going to start with that. And then, yes, I know this is a Mobile Geezer, but as you guys know, it is a tech channel. And this has nothing to do with phones or anything like that, but it's certainly tech. And I said, creating disease-free humans at the embryo stage just shows you just how far along we are. And I just found the story too interesting to resist. So this is kind of my top story of the week. And a company wants to create, wants to take embryos and take the disease, any disease out of the embryos, and then let them grow up normally. And of course, they'll be passing down their genes to their ancestors. And if they get the disease at the embryo stage, well, their ancestors won't be getting it either. Now, of course, they could mess that up. And before you get too excited, because we're getting in I think God's territory at this point. We're probably years away from them doing any of this to humans, but I just found it an interesting story. I found it on Wired, and I just found it way too interesting to resist. So that'll be my big story for the week. After that, then we'll go back to a little more normal stuff. I said, seems the Galaxy S26 Edge isn't completely out of the question because we've been keeping up with the rumors that the Galaxy S25 Edge wasn't selling well, and that Samsung isn't even going to make the S26 Edge. Well, maybe they will. So, got a little story on Phone Arena about that. Next up, as we did last week, we're going to talk about the OnePlus 15, which did come out in China this week. And remember the OnePlus 13, which I have, and it was my phone of the year last year. I thought, me and a lot of other people thought the OnePlus 13 is a great phone. So, of course, we're all kind of excited about when the OnePlus 15 would come out. Of course, it has been coming out in January, but everybody says it's going to be earlier this year. Well, it's going to be November 13th, so that's a lot earlier. And I may have to hold off for a couple of weeks before I get it, but we'll see. But I said, as expected, the OnePlus 15 global launch will be early, and I said quite early, so it will be November 13th. So we're only a couple of weeks away from that. So we'll take a look at that on Android Central. Then another story, I just found it really interesting. Shanghai deploys groundbreaking wind-powered undersea data center. So I guess the wind is up above the water and the rest of it is underwater. So it's the very first one in the world. So I found that on Tom's Hardware. I guess this has been talked about that for a couple of years because I saw Microsoft had been considering it. I guess Amazon had been considering it. But this is the actual first data center in the world that's underwater. So pretty interesting story. And finally, we never go too far without a TikTok story. Supposedly, the American piece of TikTok that was being bought, we thought it might have been over. Well, I said the TikTok deal isn't finalized as yet. I found that on Fast Company. So that'll be our articles for tonight. And we already know Ted won't be making it. And Eleanor dropped in early because she has to be to work very early tomorrow, so she's probably going to be off to bed soon. So those are our stories. Nothing else new in the comments. So we will go to our first story. Oh, no, we won't. Let me stop screen for a minute. And I wanted to show you guys something. Let me give you the backstory first. I have never owned a BlackBerry. And just happened, I had always meant to get around to getting one, especially when I was still programming. Plus, a lot of people on the job had BlackBerries and swore by them. And I always figured I'd get one at some point. Well, about the time I really started getting interested in phones the way I am now, BlackBerry was on its way of going out of business. So I never did get a BlackBerry phone, but there's quite a large kind of worldwide, especially in America, move afoot. The guy who runs Crackberry, who's kind of an expert on BlackBerry stuff, is trying to get on the board of the people who have the rights to the BlackBerry name, I guess. So he's trying to get BlackBerry restarted again. But there's another company and a couple of other countries, but there's another company called Unihertz. Let me show you that screen. Let me see a screen there. And I don't know if you've heard of this company, but Unihertz has been making keyboard type phones for a few years, and they finally have made one that I guess is very close to the BlackBerry Passport. And when this came out on Kickstarter back in the early summer, and because it was on Kickstarter, you could get it a heck of a lot cheaper if you were a backer. So I did become a backer in, I believe, in June, and they actually charged me in July. Well, as you can see right now, it is up for pre-order at $379.99. That, I believe, is the pre-order price because the regular price is going to be $399.99. So you're saving about $20 if you pre-order now. You can see United States, EU, so they're in Europe, CA, Canada, I guess, Japan, and then you can see they're in Asia, Australia, New Zealand. So, but I wanted to show you because it just went up for pre-order this week. But a bunch of us got emails starting 2 weeks ago, I guess, that they had started shipping and everybody had to be patient. And we're talking all around the world. So everybody had to be patient about when they'll email. And of course, we're all kind of excited, especially people who've owned the BlackBerry before. And so people were showing emails that they got their tracking. We were all looking for our tracking email. So I saw people in California, in Arizona, in New York, in Japan, in Australia, in the Netherlands, and in Denmark. So we've been getting, and the reason I know, because there's also, that's their website, unihertz.com products. But if you want information, if you go to Facebook, there's a Unihertz Titan 2, and that's this particular phone, Titan 2. If you want information about it, I guess you can join the group. I think anybody can join. And everybody's been updating about when they got their tracking number, when they got their phone. Some people have been doing unboxings. Some people have been hacking. Keep in mind, this is a new company, but they've done, I think, 3 phones even before this, all keyboard phones. But this is the closest thing to a real BlackBerry phone. And some people were having ghosting problems and touches, and the phone doing things when nobody's touched it. Well, I gather they just did an update today or this morning, and people are saying they did a good job because it seems like most of those problems are now gone. But if you guys wanted to follow along, just go to the Facebook group and go to the Unihertz Titan 2 group, and you'll see what they're saying about them. And yes, I did post one yesterday that I got my email. And interestingly, keep in mind, these all came from China. I was surprised. My email tracking, they were going FedEx and another company, but mine came United States Postal Service, and it was coming out of Kentucky. Well, I'm in Tennessee, so it's only one state above me. So it finally moved today. Well, now where is it? Cincinnati. But that's just how USPS or FedEx does the same type of stuff, and so does Amazon. In any case, it's showing that I will get mine on Monday. So just wanted you guys to be aware that this thing exists. Some people are saying that people have got them already are saying it's pretty wonderful. It feels like a BlackBerry. Like I said, I've never had one, but I figured at this price, I got mine for $269. So if you were back on Kickstarter, it was a heck of a lot less. So just want to let you guys know, I should have mine by next week. Of course, I'll be doing a little unboxing, and I'm kind of excited. I've never really had a smartphone with a keyboard. Yeah, back in the old days before smartphones were around, yeah, I did have dumb phones with keyboard, but this would be my first ever smartphone with a keyboard, a physical keyboard. So just wanted to make you guys aware of that. So just remember, go to Facebook, Unihertz Titan 2, if you want to follow along what's going on with it and see what people are saying about it. And you can go to unihertz.com and you can look it up there. And like I said, Right now, $379.99 for pre-order. I believe it's going to be $399.99, $400 when it comes off pre-order. So just want to let you guys know about that. And like everybody else, I'm kind of excited about mine also. So now we can go on with our normal stories. So we go back to my website, share screen, and story number 1. ChatGPT free users only was down for just over an hour on Thursday the 30th. So, and I think we're all done with trick-or-treaters. Eleanor was upstairs giving them out, but I think they all came and wiped her out pretty quick. I'm thinking we probably shouldn't hear a bell ring, but if we do, you'll know what that is. So let's go look on Tech Radar. ChatGPT was down for some free users. Here's what you need to know. Of course, this was updated yesterday. The popular AI chatbot was experiencing some issues. Let's drop it into reader view. I think I'll drop it into the dark reader view. I was able to. Been using that some lately. Okay. Just a day after a serious Microsoft Azure outage, OpenAI's ChatGPT was having some issues. According to Down Detector, issues with ChatGPT began spiking just before 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and it spiked to over 2,600 reported issues. And at some point, they realized it was just the free users. And you'll see that in the article. ChatGPT eventually confirmed issues for free users via the official status and said it was working to identify the cause. And a little over an hour after issues began, ChatGPT shared that it had deployed a fix. So pretty good for them. When it wasn't working, I couldn't get ChatGPT on the desktop or the iOS app to work, and I was met with an error in message stream message. One of my colleagues in the UK, Tech Radar's global editor-in-chief Mark McLaren, encountered similar issues. It's been all but entirely resolved since then. So to track what appears to be a growing outage for ChatGPT, Tech Radar is spinning up a live blog. So we're going to just go through the blog. It'll be pretty quick, but good for them for getting it totally resolved in like an hour, not compared to the other two big ones before it. So October 30th, 3:36 p.m., Down Detective reports are spiking. Now, they're giving us the time that they put it up, but the actual time is 3 p.m. or just before 3 p.m. As you can see, just before 3 p.m. ET, reports for issues on ChatGPT began spiking, and I've been getting an error in my attempts to use the chatbot on the desktop and via the iOS app. So at 3:48 p.m., OpenAI confirmed it was having problems for free accounts. And this is what he was getting. Okay. Oh, yes, I didn't identify who wrote this either. We'll go back and look. We'll get to the end. This is a pretty quick article. Anyway, this is what he was getting when he tried to use either the mobile app or the desktop app. At 3:50, as someone with a free ChatGPT account, so he was one of the ones affected, here's what responses currently look like from the chatbot. ChatGPT isn't saying much, if anything, just returning an error. So you can see error in message stream. At 3:54, so now it's almost 4 o'clock, OpenAI has identified the problem, and they were working to mitigate it. They didn't provide details on I don't know that they ever provide details, but the outage mostly affected free users. If you have a paid account, I gather it didn't affect you. 3:57 p.m., the reports started dropping as far as bad reports coming in, so that was good. So at one point, it went up to 2,600. As of 3:40, they were down to 1,100, so less than half already. At 4:02 p.m., as is typically the case with outages, including Starbucks, Xbox Network, and just yesterday, that was the Microsoft Azure. Impacted folks are taking to social platforms. Yeah, everybody was getting on X, I gather, and reporting it to Down Detector. OpenAI deployed a fix. They reported that at 4:10. The actual fix was at 4:07 p.m., so that's pretty quick. And it said, hopefully we'll all be back to normal shortly, and free users will be able to use ChatGPT again. And there's where they deployed the fix, 4:07 p.m. 4:17, looked like everything was back and running well. ChatGPT is back up on my free account on desktop and mobile, with only mobile taking a bit longer to deliver a response. Yeah, first it came up on his desktop, it was slow, and then it came up on both. And then the mobile app was a little slow, but everything got back to normal. So by 4:31, everything was fixed and pretty happy response. And everything's back up and running smoothly and blah, blah, blah. And that was it. So just thought I should report on that, but it was funny. I mean, we had the two biggies and then ChatGPT. So strange week. And it, of course, they didn't tell us what the problem was. In the case of Amazon, somebody had made one mistake and brought stuff down all around the world. I gather the same exact thing happened at Microsoft. One mistake, and bam, they were affected in Europe, in Japan, in Australia, in the United States, a lot of places. Not everything, but something was affected everywhere, and I reported on that, gave you a video on that. So anyway, just thought I should report on that one to you guys, but it was quick fix. All right, now, well, I just found this to be a really interesting story. I said, creating disease-free humans at the embryo stage. I found this on Wired. I may or may not read the entire, this is kind of a long article, but it sure is fascinating. A new startup wants to edit human embryos. So you'll have the embryo, I guess they'll have to wait till the embryo is there, and then they'll, well, you'll see as we go along. But I guess they'll try to make it disease-free and put it back to normal and let it grow as normal. So it's pretty fascinating stuff. 7 years after the first gene-edited babies were revealed, biotech startup Manhattan Genomics is reviving the idea of editing human embryos to make disease-free children. And like I said, don't freak out, because it'll be years before anybody will be allowed to do this, if ever. I'm guessing probably never. But the fact that it can be done is what I find amazing. So anyway, let's drop this into reader view. And you'll see the first guy who did it in China, they locked him up. In 2018, Chinese scientist He Jiankui, I think, shocked the world when he revealed that he had created the first gene-edited baby. So he did it before anybody even knew he had done it. Using CRISPR, he tweaked the genes of 3 human embryos. So I guess they're doing it while the embryo is inside the mother, I guess, in an attempt to make them immune to HIV and use the embryos to start pregnancy. So they did it, the embryo first, and then they started the pregnancy. The backlash against he was immediate. Scientists said the technology was too new to be used for human reproduction, so he didn't ask anybody's permission, and that the DNA change amounted to genetic enhancement. Like I said, in my opinion, you're probably in God's purview at this point. But it's just fascinating. The Chinese government charged him with illegal medical practices, and he served a 3-year prison sentence. I guess you should ask permission before you start messing with anybody's genes. Okay. Now, a New York-based startup called Manhattan Genomics is reviving the debate around gene-edited babies. Its stated goal is to end genetic disease and to alleviate human suffering by fixing harmful mutations at the embryo stage. The company, so they get the embryo, I guess, before placing it in the mother. The company has announced a group of scientific contributors that include a prominent in vitro fertilization doctor, a data scientist who worked for De-Extinction Company. I never heard of De-Extinction Company. Colossal Biosciences, and two reproductive biologists from a major primate research center. So I guess there's some experts in this stuff. A scientist who pioneered a technique to make embryos using DNA, so they're making the embryos from DNA. And then I guess they can put them in the mother. From 3 people is also involved. So there's a bunch of them involved in here. The funny thing is, the main lady who started this company ended up, I guess, getting close to marrying the guy who had gotten out of prison in China. But you'll see that. I like to take on challenges when I see them, says co-founder Kathy Tai, a former Thiel fellow who left college at 18 to start her first company, get this, Ranomics, a genomic screening services. Oh yeah, and later on it tells us what that company did, which is kind of weird. As Tai sees it, that challenge is to make the idea of human embryo editing more acceptable in society. My guess is that's going to take years. Brian, glad you're here, brother. Only on my second story, and this is a really fascinating one. I'll tell you about my upcoming phone after I get through with this. I'll give you the quick version. I already told everybody about it. Eleanor was here. She's got to go to work tomorrow, so my guess is she's in bed by now. And of course, Annie stopped by before she went to work. So you're the other faithful one that's always here. So glad you're here as always. Okay. The idea of editing human embryos is tantalizing because it makes me think of what's his name? Frankenstein. The idea of editing human embryos is tantalizing because I guess the scientists can't resist because any changes made to the reproductive cells are heritable. So what they're saying is if you can take any disease out at the embryo stage, well, their progenitors, their upcoming kids won't be getting the problem because you will have already stopped it. So when they inherit from the parent, well, the disease won't be there. So it's a good idea. Will God allow it? I don't know. Snip out a disease-causing mutation in an embryo, and it would be deleted from future generations as well. So, like I said, a nice idea. But gene editing technology also has the potential to cause unintended off-target effect. That's scary stuff. Edit the wrong gene by mistake, and we are human, and it could give rise to cancer, for instance. So rather than making sure the upcoming generations don't have it, well, you could slip and make sure they have it. Those mistakes would also be passed down to any future children. Yeah, therein lies the problem. But somebody's bound to come up with, well, we'll let AI do it. We're not there yet, I guess. While newer forms of gene editing are more precise, there are still ethical issues to contend with. You think? The prospect of being able to manipulate the DNA of a human embryo has raised fears of a new kind of eugenics. Yeah, and they tried that early in the last century, where parents with the means to do so could make designer babies. We've seen movies about that, with traits that they select. That's not what she was trying to do here, but I guess they had to mention it. Tai says the goal of Manhattan Genomics, now get this, originally called the Manhattan Project. And the reason I'm laughing, well, most of us know the Manhattan Project is where they came up with the atomic bomb. So probably not a good idea to call your company the Manhattan Project. When the company first launched in August, is disease correction, not enhancement. Unlike the original Manhattan Project, a secretive U.S. government program during World War II that produced the first nuclear weapons, that was mostly in Tennessee, about 120 miles from where I'm sitting right now. Tai says her venture will operate openly and transparently. And yes, that government organization still exists just barely north of Knoxville, and it's still there, and it's still run by the government. That whole town is run by the government, basically. We're revolutionizing medicine, and this technology is definitely very powerful. That's what I think is the commonality here with manipulating the nucleus of the atom and manipulating the nucleus of the cells. So I guess that's why they wanted to call it Manhattan Project, but they realize now that's probably not a good name. So now it's called the Manhattan Genomics. Earlier this year, Tai launched another gene. This is the other one that's kind of weird. Gene sending startup, the Los Angeles product with biohacker Josie Zahner. The two aim to make glowing rabbits and other fantastical pets by editing them at the embryo level. Let's hope they don't make glowing kids. I guess it's not funny, but that's weird. Okay, Tai is no longer involved in that company. That's probably a good thing, which later changed its name to the Embryo Corporation after her departure. So I guess the other lady is still working on making glowing rabbits and other pets. I don't know. We're not concentrating on that. Tai's announcement of Manhattan Genomics comes after a whirlwind public romantic relationship with China Xi, the guy who went to jail for 3 years. In May, she posted a photo of the two during what appeared to be a marriage celebration. However, they broke up. However, she tells Wired that they are no longer together and were never legally married. Their relationship, she says, was purely personal, and he is not involved with her new company. He confirmed separately to Wired that he and Tai are not together, and he is not involved in Manhattan Genomics. So that's her. So she, I guess, is the driving force behind this company. The company, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. It goes on and on to tell us all about these other experts. I just thought this was a really fascinating article, and it just was heavy. So I think I want to go down to where they won't be allowed to do this for a long time. Anyway, I think they're going to start with monkeys and rats and try to work their way up to humans. But of course, they'll have to get all kinds of clearances from federal government, local governments, all kinds of. I wish I could find that. This is a very long article. But in any case, they won't be allowed to be working on humans for a whole lot of years. I'm going to guess they probably never going to get permission to do that. But just a very interesting article. Brian, thank you as always for your faithfulness. Very much appreciated. So I don't want to stay on this one, even though to me this one was a big deal. I guess you can see why. But oh, and Brian, Ted did say he wouldn't make it. Yeah. Ted said, "Happy Halloween, folks. I won't be able to attend tonight. But you guys have a fun weekend." So I just wanted to let you know that. Also, let me see if I can bring back the other website. Stop this one. And I had told everybody I had never owned a BlackBerry, but there's a company out there that just started making the Unihertz Titan 2. I gather this is like their fourth phone, but this is the first one that's very much, I guess, like a BlackBerry Passport. A lot of people are saying it. Some people have gotten theirs already. I became a Kickstarter backer back in June. I think they charged me in July, and they started shipping the phones about 2 weeks ago. And there are people who have gotten them in Australia, in Japan, in Denmark, California, Arizona, and I put my there's a Facebook group if you want to follow along. If I can find the group. Yeah, it's called Unihertz Titan 2. So if you're interested in following what this is about, it's on pre-order now for $379.99, and I think when it comes off pre-order, it'll be $399.99. But if you want to see what people are saying about it, maybe see some unboxings, you want to go to the Facebook group. And since I've never had a physical keyboard on a smartphone before, I figured as a backer and getting it for as cheap as I did, and I got it for I think $269, so it was pretty cheap for me. Anyway, I got my email the other day, and I thought it was going to come FedEx. Turns out it was with the USPS, and it was in Kentucky, just north of me in Tennessee. Well, where is it tonight? In Cincinnati. And that's how they do things. But Cincinnati is right across the river from Kentucky, so we're good. And it's now telling me I will get it on Monday. So hopefully sometime next week you'll see a unboxing of my new Titan 2. I just wanted to let you know about that, Brian. I already told everybody else about both the website and the Facebook group. So I'm kind of excited about that. All right, on to our normal stuff. Go back, share screen again. Back to our third story. Okay. Seems the Galaxy S26 Edge isn't completely out of the question. Found this on Phone Arena. You know, everybody's saying the S25 Edge is selling terribly. So is the iPhone Air. But they kept saying, you know, we've had a few articles that said, well, Samsung wouldn't be making the S26 Edge. Well, maybe they will. So let's go take a look at Phone Arena. Galaxy S26 Edge. Damned if it does, damned if it doesn't. The Bijou phone is apparently not canceled. The battle rages on. And this was written by Sebastian Peer yesterday. Going to read a view. Okay. The reports of the Galaxy S26 Edge death, as Mark Twain would put it, are greatly exaggerated. You know, this year's ultra-thin Samsung flagship, the Galaxy S25 Edge, wasn't selling all that well, so several leaks claimed the experiment was over. And some gadget guy, Juan Bagnell, did a video the other day, and I remember when the Air came out and the Edge came out, a lot of people were saying nobody asked for this, and Juan's point was, yeah, nobody asked for it, and obviously not many people want to buy it either, so he was just making that point. Then we learned that the alleged Galaxy S26 Edge might be back on the table, but it's probably not coming very soon. Once it comes, if it materializes, so nobody's sure, The Galaxy S26 Edge will have a tough time surviving in this cruel, cold world of ours. Let me explain. The Galaxy S25 Edge struggles. So there's the S25 Edge and the iPhone Air, and neither of them are selling well at all. First, to step back, I have to give Samsung credit. The S25 Edge was a remarkable piece of engineering. And I've got to say, everybody that I've seen, who's the tech, one of the sites, he has the S25 Edge. I believe he has the iPhone Air. I know Jay Will has the iPhone Air. I think he has both too. They all seem to like them once you have them in your hand. So just thought I should make that point. Just 163 grams and 5.8 millimeters thick, obviously slimmer than its Plus and Ultra siblings. It packs the hyper-cool Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset, has 12 gigabytes of RAM, and even borrows the 200 megapixel main camera from the Ultra. A flagship just with a tiny battery and a thin chassis, but that's on paper. And it didn't sell. The culprit wasn't a lack of performance, it was probably perception. It was kind of expensive too. As my colleague Alex puts it, people saw a thinner, cheaper alternative in the iPhone Air, albeit with a single 48 megapixel camera and a smaller battery. So I guess the iPhone Air is selling better than the S25 Edge, but neither one of them are selling very well. Apple marketed it as a sleek, desirable object. Sure, the iPhone Air isn't a smash hit too, but some say it definitely won the thin phone game. You know, the thin phone that nobody asked for. Also, the new Air model is big in China at the moment. It's sold out. Well, that's good, I guess. But that could be due to stock inadequacies. Design over specs, the way forward. If Samsung wants the S26 Edge to succeed, it has to embrace the principle of design first, spec second. Rumors point to a thinner profile, possibly around 5.5 millimeters. Boy, that's thin. A 4,200 milliamp battery, and an upgraded 50 megapixel ultra wide camera. QI2 magnetic wireless charging at 25 watts is also on the table, so this is all speculative, which could give it a slight edge over the iPhone Air. When you hold the S25 Edge, it feels incredible in the hand. Yeah, everybody says that. Thin, light, and premium, it's a device that immediately communicates craftsmanship. Let me get a little swig of my green tea. The S26 Edge has the potential to refine that feeling even further, and if it wants to evade another fiasco, it should slim down. So they're talking about making it even slimmer. It's more than that, it's about reputation. If the S26 Edge doesn't materialize, Samsung could take a serious reputation hit. Think about it. Apple already managed to capture attention with the iPhone Air, a technically inferior device in many ways, I agree, yet it stole the spotlight simply by being thinner, cheaper, and well marketed. If Samsung's ultra-thin flagship vanishes from the roadmap, it would look like they folded under pressure, letting Apple win a battle that should have been theirs to define. A flagship that's meant to show off innovation shouldn't be outmaneuvered by a light version from a competitor. And I believe Samsung's came out first, that's true. Even if the S26 Edge does arrive, the challenges won't be over. The Air is somewhat established now, and Apple isn't likely to abandon the model anytime soon, but we'll see about that. Rumors of an Air 2 suggest Apple is already preparing an improved follow-up. Yeah, I think the biggest problem people have was the only one camera, which could raise the bar for thin phones even higher. Samsung will have to convince buyers that its Edge isn't just a novelty, but a premium choice in its own right, while competing against a familiar, well-marketed rival that already has momentum. I'm thinking they'll both have to be a little cheaper too. I'm not sure. The Edge is on a mission with Tom Cruise to balance and hit the sweet spot between elegance, usability, and performance, all while proving that ultra thin doesn't mean underwhelming. Otherwise, it risks being uh, remembered not as a bold experiment, but as the flagship that Apple outshone with a lesser device. So maybe it'll be made, but nobody's sure as yet. Just interesting. But you can always count on Samsung going after Apple. All right, the OnePlus 15 is out in China. So I just said, as expected, the OnePlus 15 global launch will be early, quite early. And remember, the OnePlus 13 came out in January, and so did the OnePlus 12, which I have both. Of course, they don't make a 14 because it's bad luck. So OnePlus 15 will finally launch in the U.S. way ahead of schedule. And this was written by Nick Diaz 2 days ago. Some rumors were going around, and it looks like you can expect the new phone very soon. Yeah, like 2 weeks, I think, from yesterday. Let's go into reader view. There's the Samsung. Everybody's thinking this is probably going to be the big seller. And the reader view. What do you need? Oh no, let's go down to where we always go. Interested OnePlus consumers won't have to look starry-eyed at its photos anymore as the company confirms an official global release date. Early this morning, the 29th, 2 days ago, OnePlus confirmed in a press release that its latest flagship phone, the OnePlus 15, will launch globally next month. The Post confirms that the device will arrive in the U.S. and Canada on November 13th, which I think was 2 weeks from yesterday. Yes, 2 weeks from yesterday, so not very far. While this is good news, OnePlus states consumers in those respective regions can expect a more detailed report about the phone's pricing in 2 weeks when it arrives. The company will have a global launch event that's streamed live on its YouTube channel. In its promotional era, there's a small event taking place for the OnePlus 15 on the company's main website for the US, Canada too. Consumers who subscribe on its main page can receive an extra $50 off. I've already got my email about that. Or get a chance to win the OnePlus Pad 3 for free. And I may have to hold off a few weeks, but my plan, we'll see if it comes to fruition, is to trade the OnePlus 12 so I will have the OnePlus 13 to compare it to. But we'll see how that goes. Fueling the hype, the OnePlus 15 features Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 SoC, so they'll be the first one with that, as well as the company's Oxygen OS 16 software. One of the more major highlights concerns its Detail Max engine for photography. OnePlus says its new engine works to bring better, true-to-life imagery taken through its available cameras. The OnePlus 15 sports the Clear Night engine for low-light scenarios to help eliminate flaws between exposures. What users find after should be a cleaner and more detailed nighttime low-light photo. The latest global launch. I guess those are the three colors. The OnePlus 15 launched earlier this week in China, making a significant shift in the phone in terms of battery and overall device strength. While the phone rocks a 6.7-inch LTPO AMOLED display, there's a redesign for its camera array. Yeah, very much not the round one we're used to seeing anymore. The device features 3 lenses in a rounded square housing, spearheaded by a 50-megapixel primary sensor. Probably what's turning more heads is the phone's massive, get this, 7,300 milliamp battery. That's a big battery. And we thought the 6,000 one was big, but this is better. So this should last quite a long time. OnePlus truly leaned to its Glacier battery technology to bring a battery that beats its previous phone generations by a mile. This incredible battery has been paired with 120-watt fast charging, meaning you're not only scrolling for longer, but your charging breaks are even shorter. In China, the OnePlus 15 started at $3,999, 562 in U.S. money. So that gives an idea of what we might see when November 13 rolls around. Now, the fact that they don't have the Hasselblad deal anymore with the cameras, I don't know how that's going to affect it. Some people think it might be cheaper because of that. Also, the brand's major Oxygen OS 16 is available on the newest model, as previously mentioned. However, the company's been busy detailing what other phones should expect. Oxygen OS 16 starting in November. So the OnePlus 13, 13R, 13S are first on the list with the OnePlus 12. So both the phones I have will get it. So now that it's out and we know it's coming in 2 weeks, much, much earlier than the others did. So that's pretty exciting also. And I've got 2 more stories and we're out of here. Another one I just thought was really interesting. This is a first in the world. Shanghai deploys groundbreaking wind-powered undersea data center. Got this on Tom's Hardware. China deploys wind-powered underwater data center off Shanghai coast. $226 million project could top 24 megawatts, harnessing the cooling power of the sea. Shanghai's Lingang project dunks server pods beneath the waves. A very fascinating story. I said before, Microsoft and Amazon have talked about making an underwater data center, but this is the first one in the world. So, written by Luke James, forgot to say that, 2 days ago. China has launched what it claims is the world's first, so it says claims, making it sound like maybe there's another one somewhere. I don't know. What it claims is the world's first wind-powered undersea data center, a sealed seawater-cooled cluster sitting 35 meters beneath the surface off the coast of Shanghai. The $226 million project, located in the Lingang special area near the city's southern tip, is pitched as the prototype for a new kind of energy-efficient, land-sparing cloud infrastructure. According to Lingang's own development committee, the project is designed to reach megawatts in its full build, with a first phase of 2.3 megawatts already completed. So it's working at a planned 24 megawatt capacity. The Lingang facility would be substantially larger than Microsoft's early NATIC experiment. So I guess Microsoft had an experimental one, which remained a research model rather than a commercial scale build. So that's the difference. This is the real deal. The Lingang unit is backed by a state-heavy consortium, including Shenergy, China Telecom Shanghai branch, Inesta, and CCCC for Third Harbor Engineering. Shanghai High Cloud, the operator, says it's already exploring a cooperation agreement for a 500 megawatt version for offshore sites. The engineering behind it is pretty simple at a glance. Seal your server racks in watertight capsules, which I guess that's what the picture is showing us. These are the watertight capsules, I think. Drop them on the seabed and let the ocean itself handle the thermal load. By avoiding chillers and using seawater as the heat sink, HiCloud claims it can push the power usage effectiveness below 1.15, which is lower than the best land-based hyperscale averages and China's minimum of 1.25. HiCloud's challenge will be to avoid the same fate. The project team says the servers are installed in sealed steel capsules that are coated with a corrosion-resistant material to safeguard against the saltwater environment. The developers also claim that thermal discharge and marine impact levels remain within acceptable limits for the demonstration phase, although independent verification of large-scale effects is still emergency. So that guess that could mean they could be a danger to sea animals, I guess. Anyway, pretty fascinating stuff, I thought. So as you can see from two of the stories, we are really moving ahead technology-wise and kind of fast. Now, one more story left, and you know we can never leave TikTok for long. Thought this was final, at least in America. The TikTok deal isn't finalized as yet. That's all I said. Found this on Fast Company. TikTok's fate still uncertain, but China says it will work with the U.S. Yeah, it still has to be approved by China, I think. Trump's meeting with China's Xi Jinping produced no details on the future of the popular app. Interesting that they didn't mention that. I don't think they mentioned it. And this was written yesterday. They're telling us who. This is by Associated Press. Okay. Into review. President Donald Trump's meeting Thursday with China's top leader Xi Jinping produced a raft of decisions to help dial back trade tensions, but no agreement on TikTok's ownership. Okay, so they talked about it a little. China will work with the U.S. to properly resolve issues related to TikTok. So I gather they haven't resolved all the issues yet. China's Commerce Ministry said after the meeting. It gave no details on any progress toward ending uncertainty about the fate of the popular video sharing platform in the U.S. I believe they have until December to get this done. The Trump administration had been signaling that it may have finally reached a deal with Beijing to keep TikTok running in the U.S. The Trump does have a habit of saying things are done when things are not quite done. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had said on CBS's Face the Nation on Sunday that the two leaders will consummate that transaction on Thursday in Korea. So that would have been yesterday. I guess that didn't happen. Wide bipartisan majorities in Congress passed, and President Joe Biden signed a law that would ban TikTok in the U.S. if it did not find a new owner to replace China's ByteDance. The platform went dark briefly, and we had it for that a couple of hours that one day. On January deadline, but on his first day in office, Trump signed an executive order to keep it running while his administration tries to reach an agreement for the sale of the company. 3 more executive orders followed, as Trump, without a clear legal basis, extended the deadline for a TikTok deal. And I think right now it goes to December. The second was in April when the White House officials believed they were nearing a deal to spin off TikTok into a new company with U.S. ownership. That fell apart when China backed out. That's right. After Trump announced sharply higher tariffs on Chinese products. That's true. The tariffs deadlines in June and September passed, with Trump saying he would allow TikTok to continue operating in the United States in a way that meets national security concerns. Trump's order was meant to enable an American-led group of investors to buy the app from China's ByteDance, so the deal also requires China's approval, which it hasn't gotten yet. However, TikTok deal is not really a big thing for Xi Jinping, said Bonnie Glaser, managing director of the German Marshall Fund's Indo-Pacific program, during a media briefing Tuesday. China is happy to let Trump declare that they have finally kept the deal. Yeah, they're not saying much. Trump is saying it all. Whether or not that deal will protect the data of Americans is a big question going forward. Well, Trump says it will. A big question mark for the United States, of course, is whether this is consistent with U.S. law, since there was a law passed by Congress, Glaser said. About 43% of U.S. adults under the age of 30 say they regularly get news from TikTok, higher than any other social app yet. Eleanor follows it like crazy. She finally got me on it, and now I do everything on it. I put all my videos on it the same as I do all the other platforms, including YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So they get more news from there than any of those, according to a Pew Research Center report published in September. A recent Pew Research Center survey found that about 1/3 of Americans said they supported a TikTok ban. I don't. I know Eleanor doesn't either. Down from 50%. So 50% did support a ban. Now it's down to 1/3. So that's good, I guess. In March 2023, roughly 1/3 said they would oppose the ban, and a similar percentage said they weren't sure. So it's split 3 ways. Among those who said they supported banning the social media platform, about 8 in 10 cited concerns over users' data security being at risk as a major factor in their decision, according to the report. Of course, I think we have the same security risk in all the other ones, like China can't get to their data. I don't know. The security debate centers on the TikTok recommendation algorithm, which has steered millions of users into an endless stream of video shorts. China has said the algorithm must remain under Chinese control by law. But a U.S. regulation that Congress passed with bipartisan support said any divestment of TikTok would require the platform to cut ties with ByteDance. Now, according to the way they gave it to us when they made the deal, the American stuff would be on American servers. So maybe that is or isn't true, I'm not sure. But it doesn't sound the same as it did then. American officials have warned the algorithm, a complex system of rules and calculations that platforms use to deliver personalized content, is vulnerable to manipulation by Chinese authorities, probably so. But no evidence has been presented by U.S. officials proving that China has attempted to do so. So the deal is not quite done. I'm wondering if Trump's going to have to extend it once again. I'm not sure. But just wanted to give you guys that update that anybody who thought the deal was done, it's not quite done. So, I left that message from Ted up, didn't I? Yep, okay. So that's it, folks. That's it for Halloween. And no, I don't dress up for Halloween. Hopefully we'll get Ted back next week, but I certainly come up with, I think, are some pretty fascinating stories, especially the embryo story about them editing embryos. And I did think the underwater data center was pretty fascinating too. So I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend and a very blessed week. Let's remember, we all do better when we love each other. So Come on, people now, smile on your brother. Everybody gets together. Try to love one another right now.